We should have intro music. All right. Welcome you guys to the Dr. G show. I think it just started. All right. Welcome you all to the Dr. G show. I was thinking we should have some like intro music when we did our show with Marty at the beginning of COVID. Holly Hajajana. She made us like great intro music and it was fabulous. So, dressed a little low key. Was supposed to be rock climbing tonight, but this is my first show since coming back from Europe. So it's kind of great to be back with you guys again. This is episode 196. So what we want to do tonight is we're talking about ways that we're poisoning our families on a regular basis, right? And while a lot of the stuff that we'll talk about maybe feels a little shocking if you don't know these things, it has been known for a long time. So I got my favorite book here. This is a textbook from McPherson School District, and it's called Graded Lessons in Physiology and Hygiene by Crone. And this is from 1907. And in here they have a section called Adulteration of Food. So we'll talk about that in just a second. It's been probably a long time since I read from this book, but I love this book. I bought this at an auction, and lo and behold, I was quoting it to a patient, and she said, "Is there initials in the front?" And sure enough, there is. And she said that was her grandfather's. I bought it from his auction, so when he died. So that's pretty weird. But going through the book, it was pretty amazing because it talked about all this stuff that we're talking about now, but back in 1907 we were warning children about this stuff. Now we're saying it's part of a healthy diet. So quick little reminder, all you guys are always asking for like a cooking show or not, like a cooking demo thing for you guys. So I did it. Okay, so October we have a gourmet cooking class. That's every Thursday night at 6:30. It'll be at the District on Commerce, which is over by Waterman Street, where I do a lot of my photo walks and I find a lot of shoes. And we're going to spend time going through some kind of like my favorite kind of gourmet, delicious meals and teach you guys how to make them. And what's probably really surprising is it's pretty easy to make them. So like they look complicated, they look pretty. But you guys know I came out with the cookbook, Gourmet Tacos, Cooking After Dark with Dr. G. It's on Amazon. And if you put in Gourmet Tacos and Dr. Patrick Garrett, you'll come up with it. But that's a great book. Like that's I think it was Cynthia Hunter. She was just like, you should make a cookbook during COVID. So that's what I did. So it was my first attempt, but really, really great meals. And then Jamie Farley, who's social worker, become a therapist. She and I have been working on a cookbook, really great one for cooking your way out of anxiety and depression. And so it'll have over 24 to maybe 30 different recipes in there. And then it'll have a bunch of bio kind of spiritual kind of mechanisms in there too. And then we'll talk about food as medicine, how these ingredients help you for anxiety and depression. So that's a great cookbook. We're a little behind because I'm behind. And then otherwise, coming back from Europe, so I spent 9 days in Mexico beach hopping, and then I spent 15 days in Europe and went to 7 different countries, 10 different cities, and it was an amazing food and health experience. It really was. So like I was able to eat wheat and dairy over there, eat pizzas. Apparently, since I've been there last time, like everybody sells pizza. And I can drink beer there and have no health consequences whatsoever. Absolutely none. You know how weird it is to eat a pizza and drink a beer and have no bloating, no ill effects, no nothing. You just feel like you ate a salad. Like, that's amazing. And then I came back to the U.S. and I didn't have anything for lunch on my first day back. And so I walked over to 7-Eleven and I got a salad. And after eating the salad, I got bloated. Like, I felt like I was pregnant. And I was just like, God dang it, America, we are poisoning our people because they spray stuff on there to make it stay fresher. And so even eating healthy ends up causing us to feel horrible. America. So, hey, Diva. Good that you joined here. Hey, as you guys have questions as we go through stuff, make sure you feel free to post it. This will also be posted to my Facebook feed, so if you guys have questions or comments later, feel free to share them on those. I am usually pretty good about answering those. And make sure you share this on your feed as we go through this. Again, every Tuesday we typically have a show, so if you have things that you want me to talk about, feel free to send those messages to me too. Alright, so cooking class coming up. Make sure you sign up for that. It's 4 classes. It's $100, so $25 class. And then that's at the District on Commerce. So, we want to talk about ways that we probably don't even realize that we're poisoning ourselves and our families. What's interesting is when you go through this stuff, like, it's crazy. Like, a big chunk of what I go through, no matter what patient condition we have, so, you know, like our really high success rate for our clinic is because we just create normal. And part of creating normal is going through all the chemicals and really trying to detoxify as much as possible. You're not going to get perfect. You just want this much to that much with that. So control what you can control, and that's about it. And Gina said I'm on her Apple TV. That's it? Mm-hmm. Dr. G. Alright. So, it's good to have Gina here. So, let's read from this book. This is like we're in school, right? I take off my glasses because I'm getting old. Alright, so adulteration of food. Many of our foods are sometimes spoiled by persons who manufacture them and sell them, putting into them cheaper substances, and are chiefly interested in making the most money possible out of them. And then the most adulterated foods are sugar, candy, syrup, milk, butter, chocolate, coffee, flour, baking powder, bread, and jellies. So, sugar and syrup and candy are made from a particular process by which they use corn and turn the starch into glucose, and that's high fructose corn syrup, which, you know, the coursework at Harvard, that was my first coursework that really kind of helped me figure out why we had all these patients with fatty liver disease and even like the beginning of cirrhosis of the liver just from their food. And then some candies are colored with poisonous matter, so that's coal tar. That's the chemical that can decrease your brain neurite growth by 3,000 to 5,000%, but makes it 1,200% more profitable. And then butter is often made entirely from lard and tallow, to which cotton or even cottonseed oil, to which colors are added to make it look like pure yellow butter of rich cream. This product's called butterine or oleomargarine. That's what my grandma used. Oleo. We'll skip down. Okay, so baking powder is often impure, being adulterated with the addition of alum, which is aluminum. Baking powder containing alum may be injurious to your health. Jellies sold at a low price are made from brittle glue-like substances called gelatin, animal carcasses, to which acids are added and then unhealthy coloring matters to make them look like pure jellies made from home of currants, strawberries, grapes, and other fruits. So basically, we can make cheaper jellies if we take animal carcasses, grind them up, and then add toxic coal tar, brain disrupting artificial colors to it. And then this is one of my favorite parts. Not only do we have artificial eggs, artificial butter, adulterated wheat flour, but we also have buckwheat that's adulterated with wheat, middlings, cider vinegar made from grains, lemon extract made without lemon, vanilla extract made without vanilla, Vermont maple syrup that has never been within 1,000 miles of Vermont. Nearly all cheap honey is strained, or all cheap strained honey is made without the single effort of a bee. Artificial smoke is made out of poisonous drugs, which is coal tar. And then oysters are partially embalmed with chemicals, that would be formaldehyde. And canned fruits are often preserved with antiseptic drugs, which interfere with your digestion. Which is why, like, cheese does not go bad anymore. So it has it's a myosin, I believe. Gosh, it's been forever since I've seen that. But yeah, so it doesn't go bad. Where back when I was a kid, I mean, your mom was just like, cut the mold off, don't throw the cheese away. And so this, from 1907, tells us that we are being poisoned by manufacturers trying to make higher profits. This was taught in school. Today, all those foods that they showed are served at the school and are now a part of a healthy diet. We live in a country where if you go to the zoo, they will feed you and your family food that you cannot feed to those animals. And you know why you can't feed them to the animals? Because we care about the animals. So that's the crazy place we are today. Like, we literally care more about animals at the zoo than we do our own kids and our own family. But again, all fairness, most people don't know or don't even realize it. I was the same way. I mean, my first kid, like, I was feeding her fish sticks and mac and cheese and peas, and I was just like, damn, I'm a good dad. Like, that's all the parts of the food pyramid. Like, I'm doing really good. Like, I got this under control. And then I learned all this stuff, and then I was like, holy crap, I'm poisoning my kids. So then when I started making lunches for them, as I learned all this, it was just like fruit, vegetable, nut, seed, berry, legume, and green, and maybe a juice or green tea. So it went from like fish sticks to mac and cheese to here's a piece of fruit, here's some sliced vegetables, here's a little thing of nuts and seeds, maybe here's some berries. That's it. That's all you get. Just real, actual healthy food. And now they're like, I feel so much better knowing what I know doing that. But I also kept it really simple. So banned foods. I don't know if you guys know this, but most of the foods that you eat and you feed your family are banned around the world. Something like, I pulled up an old slideshow that I used to do back before COVID, when we could have like real live talks. So if you think about like flavor safe tomatoes, so we do this genetically modifying thing, which is banned in a lot of countries. Not always because the genetically modified part, you're taking fish DNA, you put inside a corn plant. That's just Frankenstein stuff. Maybe it's going to be sketchy. Who knows? But the whole purpose of doing that is so you can spray a chemical on that seed that will kill every living thing except for that seed. And I have a chart of every biochemical process in your body. And it's about 3 foot by 5 foot, and I love this chart, right? Got it from Roche Labs, like, I think in my freshman year of medical school or something like that. So, chiropractic school, went to medical school, post-grad, all over the place, Harvard and Yale. But that chart is also, it has all these other different colored lines. And that's the first thing I noticed. Like, well, what the hell are these other lines? Well, they're shared by plants and bugs. So a fungus has more human physiological pathways than plant pathways. And that means if we use chemicals that harm any bugs or any plants, we harm ourselves the same way. There's not human physiology. There's not human DNA. Your DNA is to make all living things. Almost all your DNA is shut off just to make a human. Yeah? Same thing with physiology. We don't have different physiology and genetics for every single thing. That would be ridiculous. So this is a really great thing. 6 foot of DNA that makes everything. And these little things turn on to be a human. The rest is shut off so we're not chickens and goats and stuff. So any chemical that we use to harm physiology or harm plants, harm bugs or plants, we harm our own physiology in the process. And that's what makes it so dangerous. And that's why it's banned in other countries. Because in the rest of the world, it's socialized medicine. Socialized medicine says, hey, if we let these companies poison you for profit, we're going to cover all your healthcare costs. No country can afford that. So America, we're not. We don't care. If you can lose your whole entire savings in a weekend at the hospital, who cares? Go live in a box under a bridge. We don't care. This is America, right? The only country that does that. And it's ridiculous because most people don't know they're being poisoned. And they're losing their whole entire savings, their whole entire joy of parenting to take care of these chronically sick kids and chronically sick themselves and falling apart. And they don't even realize we're just being poisoned for profit. Or if they do, they're kind of like, well, we're going to die of something. So, one of the interesting things is Flavor Save tomatoes. I don't know, you guys remember Flavor Saves? Those came out, I think, in the 90s. And Flavor Save were notorious. So, they would basically stay fresher longer. If you guys don't know this, most of your tomatoes, they're picked hard green. They're put in a truck hard green. They're gassed with something like maybe methylene gas. That turns it red and plump and softens it up. So by the time that truck gets all the way to your store, that's a red, ripe, beautiful tomato. But it's not. Right? Harvard says it's missing 241 nutrients versus a vine-ripened tomato. Right? The last 2 weeks is when it really sucks the nutrients out of the ground, into the tree, into the vine, into the actual plant. Right? Or fruit. So, not only are they picking it with less nutrients then, and gassing with a toxic chemical, but Flavor Save tomatoes, they wouldn't go bad. They altered the genetics of these tomatoes to where they wouldn't go bad. And then people died, right? So they didn't die because of the genetic modification of this tomato. They died because the genetic modification of this tomato disrupted gut bacteria, caused these huge imbalances, and then it killed people. So something like Clostridium difficile, that's a good bacteria. It's actually really good. It scares people at the hospital. It scares people if there's an epidemic or an outbreak or something like that. But it's actually a really good bacteria for you. It makes B12, which makes you healthy and happy. Actually affects your DNA, But if you alter the spectrum of bacteria in your gut, then all of a sudden you have overgrowths of things that shouldn't be there. And when you overgrow something like Clostridium difficile, you die. Sorry, I talk all day, so things like H. pylori, same thing. Overgrowth of staph. We have to have this balance, and our body balances itself. It's when we add something in there that messes it up that actually becomes the problem. So, we actually have created, we add these chemicals like arsenic, and we can create birds and the way that we feed them and the way that we keep them in the dark they'll end up like 5 times bigger than they really are in nature. But that ends up causing all kinds of disruptions with our own physiology, let alone causing cancer. So we get bigger chunks of meat, right? But it's toxic. If you look at something like bread, bread is banned, and our bread is banned in a lot of countries. And that was one of the most frustrating things being in Europe and Mexico, is you could eat your bread there and be fine. But you come back to America and it's back to nightmare again. But our bread will get you 15 years in prison and $500,000 fine in places like Singapore because they add bromine to the bread. Of course, there's chlorine and fluorine, which are neurotoxic. But all those halides, bromine, chlorine, fluorine, those literally make you dumber and fatter, right? So your thyroid runs off of iodine. So not only are we iodine deficient because we don't eat fish from the ocean, we don't eat plants from the ocean, and most people eat purified salt that doesn't have iodine in there. So we're iodine deficient for our thyroid. But then we add in these disruptors. And so bromine, so you get the brominated vegetable oil that's in Mountain Dew and chips and crackers, brominated flour that's in white bread and wheat bread. That bromine binds to the iodine receptors in your thyroid, and then now you're producing lab work that looks great, but your body is not functioning. And thyroid affects every single cell in your entire body, from sexual development to your basal metabolic rate to every other function of the body, and that's all disrupted. And so if you eat that bread, you will become dumber, sicker, and fatter. And so for a socialized country like Singapore, they're like, screw that. If you do that here, you're going to jail. You're getting a $250,000 fine, or no, $500,000 fine, because they don't want sick, fat, dumb people. Europe's European Union has banned it. China banned it. Seriously, when China is banning foods, when China bans American foods, that's a big problem. Okay, so when I was lecturing in Chicago like years ago, our FDA was voting to whether we were going to label artificial colors and flavors on candies to show that it causes neurological disorders, learning disorders, dyslexia, all that kind of stuff, right? These are banned in other countries. Even if they end up over there, you'll see labels that say this color is known to cause neurological brain disorders or learning disorders or something like that, ADHD. So they just ban them or they label them, and parents just don't buy food that causes their kids ADD, right? In America, we were voting to whether we were going to label our foods to let parents know these are what causes learning disorders. This is what causes ADHD. And then our FDA voted no, right? They said nobody's going to buy food that has warning labels on it. To which I thought, we're Americans. Have you seen cigarettes? In fact, I don't know. You ever seen cigarettes like I buy cigars when I'm overseas, and they have literally have pictures of breast cancer, like end-stage breast cancer, lung cancer, kids with cancer, cancer in the face, on the cigar container. And I still bought the cigar. We're Americans. That doesn't bother us. So, the same time, there was a vote for the FDA for BPA, bisphenol A, which is a horribly estrogenic cancer-causing chemical, hormone-disrupting chemical, made from benzene, which causes leukemia and lymphoma. And so they're in your pacifiers, baby bottles, formula. It's what lines the formula container, chew toys. Like the most horrific cancer-causing, like childhood cancer-causing and hormone-disrupting thing is in every single thing that your kid's going to put in their mouth, right? So then the FDA was voting to whether they were going to not allow those in children's products. And our FDA said, nah, it's safe. The company that made it, they have studies that say it's safe. What's your problem, right? We're not going to mess with that. So it made the news because Walmart banned it, right? Walmart. The day that Walmart is looking after your children more than your FDA, that's a huge issue. With something like bread, China is helping you out more than the US FDA. It's crazy. It's crazy. So, was it Canada and a whole bunch of other countries all banned the kind of bread that we have because it's neurotoxic. And people, again, we're Americans, this is the bulk of our diet, right? Is this bread that's causing hormone disruption like crazy. Something like trying to look. Okay, so you guys probably know this. I tell all my patients this, but one of the things we go through is coal tar colors, flavors, smells. But the research in 2010 showed that artificial colors like yellow decreased your brain neurite growth by 3,000%. Blue decreased it by 5,000%. And then green would be like 8,000%. MSG, monosodium glutamate, is 8,000%. So, these, when we talk about neurotoxicity, neurite, decrease in neurite growth. So, your brain's constantly pulsating, constantly like creating new neural pathways, and then we're trying to accommodate with our environment all the time, and we're trying to learn new things, and we're trying to be productive at work, and we're going to constantly consume a chemical that prevents new neural growth for pathways. So then it not only dumbs us down, but it makes us brain foggy and unproductive, and it makes us really hard to learn new things, right? So it's a way of slowly poisoning ourselves. And they even did this, the research that came out in 2010, they even looked at feeding this to pregnant moms, and then the babies would come out with these neurological disorders. So it again, like, holy crap. I get too excited about this stuff. This is why I love my job. So I can tell people this kind of stuff too. So, something like was it 1960? America was the smartest country in the world for the first time. 1960. But 4 years later, the American IQ plummeted and has never recovered. We're now one of the dumbest countries on earth. So, about that time, a group of scientists went to the U.S. Senate and testified, and they said, hey, these colors, they're made from coal tar, they're neurotoxic, we're dumbing our population down, to which we said, it's fine. So we went from number 1 to 22nd smartest country. There are third world countries that are smarter than Americans. Which, if you've been on Facebook, you kind of get it, right? Alright, so let's see what people are saying here too. So, Angela, she's listening while she's working out. Look at that. Getting healthy while learning how to be healthy. And she's saying, you're making me not want to eat again. So I eat all the time. You just it's a matter of knowing. Like, everything's aware. As you become aware, then you start making changes, mindful changes, and then you keep practicing those changes. So yeah, in the beginning, all this is really hard to start applying. If you've ever been my patient, it sucks. And then it gets easier, and then you feel better, and then you kind of like find your groove and you're normal, and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, this isn't so bad. But man, the first 6 weeks, yeah, it sucks. I went through all this. It sucks. So when you learn this stuff and then you try to feed your kids something, I remember my daughter, she wanted gum. I always get her gum from the health food store, but she doesn't want gum from the health food store. She wants, I don't know which one it was, but some gum at the regular store. And the color's petroleum, the flavor's petroleum, the smell is petroleum, the preservative is paint thinner. Paint thinner. If you put paint thinner in your kids' food, you go to jail. If the company does it, it's just good business. And then the 3 sugars in almost every single gum, well, every single gum at the regular store, is made from formaldehyde, which is made from cancer-causing, leukemia, lymphoma-causing benzene. You know, the flammable part of gasoline. Obviously, that's a good thing to put in products, right? Who doesn't need a little bit of gasoline in their food? But the whole reason we do that is because it will never, ever, ever go bad, right? If you take benzene and you create benzoic acid and you put it in like tortillas, or parabens and you put it in tortillas, you don't have to refrigerate those tortillas, and they will never, ever, 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 ever go bad. But if you've ever made tortillas or made homemade bread, it molds that fast. It gets stale really quickly, molds really quickly. That's why you have the heels. Like back in the day, you just keep the heel at the end of the bread, so then the next one doesn't get all stale. But now it doesn't matter. It's all good. So someone was like at a company and they were like, hey Bob, how can we extend the life on these tortillas? And then Bob's like, you know what we do? We could put some cancer-causing, leukemia, lymphoma, blood cancer disorder benzene in there, and then we'll have a longer shelf life. But it'll be banned in the rest of the world, but at least Americans won't have tortillas that go bad. It's ridiculous. Utterly, utterly ridiculous. America. So Angela's got to figure it out. Welcome to America. So, you know, when my daughter, she was just like, Dad, I want some gum. I don't want the Spry gum. I don't want the Glee gum. I want this gum. And I was just like, oh man, just, you know, read the ingredients. If you can find any gum in this entire store that doesn't have a benzene product in there or coal tar, I will buy it for you. And so we went through the label and talked about like, well, that's benzene, that's benzene, that's benzene. And then she's like, I don't think there's any gum that isn't 100% petroleum. And it's like, yeah. And I love you. And I can't buy this for you. Like, I just can't. You know, like, before I knew all this stuff, I would buy that gum in a heartbeat. Right? I would be like, sugar-free, that's probably good for you too. Let's get the sugar-free one, because we're, you know, now it's poison. Like, God dang it. Like, how hard is it being a parent trying to learn this stuff yourself, but then you have kids that are demanding to be poisoned. And you're just like, I can't do this. I can't. So there's been a few discussions like that where I just sit down in the store and like girls just like, look, I love you too much. I know this sucks. I will buy you any gum, any amount of gum that's non-toxic, but we can't buy this, you know? We had that same discussion with energy drinks of just like, I can't do it. My daughters were like, Dad, if you got to wear a mask everywhere, Dad. If it saves one life, it's worth it. And then we went to drink an energy drink, or they wanted to buy a Bang or something, or a Red Bull. And I was just like, no, absolutely not. There's some things I will flex on, and there's some things I will give on, but no, we can't do it. And they're like, why? And I was like, well, you know, it kills like 32 kids a year, and it puts kids in the emergency room for cardiovascular stuff. And then they're like, Dad, that's only the sick kids. That's only kids that already have pre-existing conditions. And I was just like, if we could save one kid, then it's worth it. So, and of course, using their own words does not go very well. So, they did not appreciate that. But, again, it was just like, I'm sorry. I just can't do it. So, you know, as we learn these things, it just makes life harder, and I'm sorry for that, but it is worth it to know this stuff. I can't tell you how many patients that go from just oblivious to all this stuff, to then noticing, holy crap, when I eat this, I notice I have stomach cramps. When I eat this, I notice I have migraines. And when I eat this, I notice I feel really tired and lethargic. Like before, they never put it together that they could control how they felt. And even with me, it's that same thing of just like, well, you eat a bunch of sugar, you stay up too late, and then you feel tired, so then you just do a bunch of coffee, and then you wig out, and then you just do a bunch of bread to kind of like get the morphine, and then you just keep repeating the cycle, and then you're just like, I feel awful. Like, this is not going to work out anymore, And then you learn all these things, and then you make these changes, and then you feel better, and then you're like, okay, I feel better. So, when I was eating pizza in Europe, came back to the U.S. Well, no, because I did this in Mexico. So when I went to Mexico, beach hopping all the way down to Tulum and back, I ate pizza there just to kind of see, and I ate ice cream there just to kind of see what it actually felt like, right? So nothing, right? So I get back to the airport in America, pretty sure it's DFW, and I had a slice of pizza, and like instantly my vision got a little blurry, my brain felt like intense, like it just lots of tension in there, and I just felt like kind of really sluggish. I went from feeling great to like I just want to lay down. And there was one slice, and it was within probably like 5 bites that I noticed this is like totally a different life that you live eating like this versus how I was eating in other countries. So holy crap. Freaking America. Even like, if you guys remember Kraft cheese, I grew up on Kraft macaroni and cheese, but Kraft macaroni and cheese, they were for sale, and no, Cadbury, the little eggs, they've been family owned forever. So they were for sale. They were selling their company, and Kraft wanted to buy Cadbury, and Cadbury was so offended that they put out some article that they're not going to be owned by a plastic cheese company. And I love that one food company called out another one and was just like, we ain't going to be owned by no fake ass cheese company. Because Kraft, until they made their changes, I think it was after that, they would neither confirm nor deny that there was actual cheese in their product. So, all right. Try to think of some other stuff here. So we talked about benzene. What about antifreeze? Antifreeze is a really good one, right? So antifreeze is called propylethylene glycol. In your car, there's 2 types of antifreeze. One is propylethylene glycol. The other is ethylene glycol. Now, ethylene will just kill you straight up, right? So you don't want to use that antifreeze in your food. That would just kill everybody. A better idea would be to use the other part of antifreeze, and then we could put it in products, and they would never go bad. So, if you get a Frosty at Wendy's, they use antifreeze in there. If you go to Dairy Queen, antifreeze. A lot of the ice cream that you buy, that's any of the cheap ice cream, it's antifreeze is in there, right? Antifreeze is also what they use for colon prep to clean you out. So, should you have gut problems? That's literally what they use to clean you out, right? So, nowadays, you can buy a shake at, say, McDonald's or so we'll say Dairy Queen or a Frosty at Wendy's, and you can leave that in your car all week, and then Friday throw it back into the freezer, and it's Frosty time again, right? They won't go bad because they're not real. They're just chemicals, right? I don't know if you guys ever noticed something called soft serve. Soft serve is called soft serve because it doesn't meet the legal definition of ice cream. So we used to always go to these Chinese buffets, which are horrifically toxic and horrible for you. But in the back, we were always so happy because they had free soft serve. You could pull this handle and get as much ice cream as you wanted, right? But it wasn't ice cream. It's just a bunch of chemicals that make it look like ice cream, which is messed up. But highly profitable, right? So, you know. Trying to think of some stuff that we usually don't talk about. Because, this we're almost to episode 200. We've been talking about this stuff for a long time. Talk about styrofoam. I talk about that a lot, though, but styrofoam is another way that you poison your family. Styrofoam is a horrible estrogenic cancer, but it's also a cancer-causing leukemia and lymphoma cancer because it's made directly from benzene. And even my textbook from 1935, Anemia in Clinical Practice, I guess it's at home, 1935, it says benzene causes leukemia and lymphoma and myelodysplasia blood cancers. So what do we do with that information? Let's put it in everything. So you have this kind of bullshit scenario that goes on in America where we're going to have this epidemic of leukemia, sudden epidemic of leukemia, because we put a known chemical. We don't even know. We know this causes leukemia. We put it in everything you eat, drink, breathe, rub on your skin, medication, and supplements. And then are surprised that people get leukemia from the leukemia-causing chemical. So then what are we going to do? Well, let's go for a 5-mile walk, because the best way to cure cancer is to walk 5 miles with a bunch of people. I get thirsty on that walk, so I'll use an Nalgene bottle, which is made from benzene, the thing that causes leukemia. We'll hand out water with styrofoam, which causes leukemia. And we'll use paper cups that are lined with paraffin, which is petroleum, which causes leukemia. So leukemia and lymphoma, we cause it, we go for walks, and we use the chemical that causes it to aid the people walking to figure out the cure, so we can keep poisoning people and then hopefully come out with a drug that we can sell them. This is ridiculous. It's redunculous. I think we're all going to die. Except for me. Knowing all this stuff and then dating is just like, for the last 6 years of dating, like, I'm just like, she's gonna die. She's gonna die. She's gonna die. Holy crap. I'm like reading the shampoo, like, yeah, this ain't gonna last very long. She'll probably die in 10 years. Like, it's depressing. So, now, those kind of chemicals are also in medications, in supplements. So if you look at like 1-a-day supplements, holy crap. Artificial color from coal tar, artificial flavors from coal tar, talc, which causes cancer. They'll have toluene in there, which is paint thinner. What else? I mean, they're notorious. But a lot of people are taking supplements that actually are causing more harm than benefit in the hopes of getting healthy because they're eating a bunch of toxic foods. So we eat a bunch of toxic foods, we don't feel good, we take a supplement that often is also toxic. So, because again, it's money. If we can poison you but make a lot more money than using real ingredients, well, isn't that worth it? So, that's where reading supplement labels, we do that with patients all the time, and you'd be surprised, like, they're like, oh, so-and-so recommended, this is so good, and then you're reading through the label and you're just like, this is a toxic nightmare. Same thing with medications. I don't know if you guys know this, but medication companies, pharmaceuticals, actually were derived from coal tar dye industries, because dye industries had figured out how to take natural colors, synthesize them from coal tar to make permanent, sustainable colors. And then with that, you created this chemicalization of stability that people preferred, right? So I could wash my shirt with turmeric, make it orange, but eventually that would fade out. But what if I could use a coal tar from petroleum, and then that would make a orange color that wouldn't fade, right? But now it's cancer-causing chemicals. It's also flammable, so then we'll take cancer-causing flame retardant, spray it on the shirt, so the shirt doesn't flame up, because we want to smoke cigarettes that we don't have to keep lighting, so then the cigarette never goes out. So then when they pass out, they light the house on fire, they burn up everything, so we got to spray everything with flame retardant so that the gasoline material with the gasoline colors doesn't flame up in the gasoline environment. So we're going to spray more petroleum chemicals on there to prevent it all from burning up. And then why are we sick? What are you guys saying over here? Let's see. You guys have any questions? Ooh, Angela said she used to work at DQ. All right, so I was from Newton until I moved to Wichita. Actually from Texas, then to Wichita, or then to Newton, then to Wichita. But the DQ, which they tore down, was the grossest freaking place in Newton. It was so skanky. So skanky. They got a new one there? No. So yeah, horror stories from there. I would like to talk about those horror stories, Angela. I would love to know the inside. I love, with my patients, I'll be telling them all this stuff, and then I'll find patients that are from Dow Industry, or they're from the water treatment plants, and they not only validate what I'm saying, but they usually tell me a whole bunch of other horrible stuff that I didn't know. And so I love that, because every now and then, I'm telling people that permanent hair dye is becoming a popular way for people to commit suicide because it's made from coal tar and it will kill you. If you drink hair dye, it'll kill you, and there's no antidote. So that's why it's becoming a preferred way of suicide, which is messed up, the stuff they put on your hair. But in 2019, research came out, and they said that 10% of all breast cancers for white women, because breast cancer is racist, but 10% of breast cancers for white women were just due to permanent hair dye. Now think about that. BRCA gene, which there's 800 different BRCA genes, but for the one that they get excited about, it's a 5%. 95% of breast cancer is your lifestyle and diet, things you can control. But the only thing we get excited about is that 5% risk, not the 95% food, but the 5% genetics. So women will lop off their breasts. Angelina Jolie cut off her breasts because she had a 5% risk. 5%. Hair dye, 10%. Who's cutting off their hair? And Angelina Jolie didn't cut off her skin to prevent skin cancer. I cut out my liver because I don't want to die from liver cancer. And I'm fearful of leg cancer. So that's why the shot is from here. Because I cut off my legs because I don't want leg cancer. Ooh. I'm going to have to get rid of my lungs because I don't want lung cancer. That's a horrible way to address prevention. Cutting off viable parts. Especially if you're Angelina Jolie. You know what I mean. So, that hair dye, that permanent hair dye. Now you can get natural hair dye, like Italian natural color. Well, you can color your hair and not die from it. Let alone it's going down your water system through the water treatment plant back into your drinking water, and now everybody's slowly poisoning themselves with permanent hair dye, which is from coal tar, right? So, for black women though, because I told you, breast cancer is racist. For black women, research showed that 50% of breast cancers were due to their hair care products. 50%. That's pretty messed up. But if you know what those things are made of, it is not why, or that's surprising, it's Yeah, that's what should happen. All the stuff that people have, no matter what patients come in for, it is not like, oh my God, how did that happen? Wow, that's a mystery. It is like, yep, you should have that, right? Absolutely, 100%, you should be suffering from that because disease is not disease. Disease is a normal, expected outcome from an abnormal diet and lifestyle. You can only consume poison for so long before you get sick, and then we act like we're surprised because we don't know they're poisoning us for profit. Now, if you own stock, it's okay. So, what else? Do you guys like the book? I love that book. I cannot believe I found that book in a pile of books and that it actually was about what I do. That's the craziest thing in the world. I cannot even believe that because like I could read that book at a seminar today with a postdoctoral kind of seminar and all those doctors will be like, that's amazing. And then you're like, hey, this is from 1907. Like, this is not new information, right? Over 100 years. 100 years later, we are worse with this information. So the nice thing is, you know, when you look at like most of the stuff that we learn, you can purge most of it. Like, it's not like you're all gonna die, right? Like, you still have the ability to live a healthy, happy, long life. You know, you have the ability to have kids that don't have horrible PMS and cancer and ADHD and all these kind of things that then throw your whole life into chaos because you're chronically worrying about this kid being sick all the time. You can live in an imperfect environment in the U.S. You can live in a toxic food environment and still eat healthy. Your body is this amazing reparative process that's always going on. Your genetics are designed to heal. Your physiology is designed to heal. We're all designed to be bigger, better, and stronger all the time. But it's going to come through knowledge, right? So, well, not even knowledge, application of knowledge, right? Use of that knowledge in meaningful ways. So hopefully the end message with all this isn't really like you're screwed. It's really like you should become empowered without going crazy about this stuff and find ways to survive in this imperfect environment in a country that makes it really, really hard to be healthy. But it's still there. It's still there. The opportunity's always there in America to still be the healthiest and happiest and productive person you can be. It's all still here. It's just really learning and applying and having the will to sustain that change. Go through that hero's journey of diet, the hero's journey of happiness, the hero's journey of dechemicalizing your house, and know that it sucks, but it'll get easier, right? It's going to be frustrating when you go to the store, but it won't always be frustrating. It'll be okay. So, wrap this show up. I missed you guys since Europe, you know? Or Mexico and Europe and San Francisco and maybe a few in Florida. So, sorry I've been traveling all over. But just so you know, all the traveling I did, all of it, all over the world, I still didn't take as many days vacation as the average European gets mandated paid vacation in Europe. I went to all those places and still didn't even do as well as a European for paid days off. And mine weren't even paid. I still saw patients through telehealth so I could stay in countries longer, but holy crap. We are totally missing out in America. One of the biggest things I learned in Europe is, and I kind of already knew this, but it was that realization of watching that none of the kids have. I didn't see any kids hyperactive. I didn't see any kids using technology, and I don't know if you know this, but in Europe, nobody under like 11 wears masks. They're not supposed to wear masks. None. Come back to the U.S., everything's falling apart. But like being a part of so many countries, from Austria to Switzerland to Italy to France to Belgium to Liechtenstein, Liechtenstein, and Germany. Like, it was an amazing difference of happiness and calm. And then coming back to America, it's shell shock again. It's like, holy crap, we don't even know how good everybody else has it. Most Americans are crapping on every other country because, nobody could be as good as the U.S. But yet we're the sickest, fattest, dumbest population with most anxiety and depression. And we don't have to be. Number one with confidence, not so much with happiness and health. So, glad you guys joined. Feel free to post questions, post kind of comments about chemicals and stuff that you've learned. Maybe even substitutions, healthy options that you've figured out that'll help everybody else out. Otherwise, hey, I'm glad to be back here talking to you guys. Look forward to next week. Not sure what we'll talk about, but I'll post it. So, and next week will be 197 episodes. We need to have Holly back on for the 200th episode, because that's the only host ever that gives me crap. She's the only one that gives it as back as I give it, with all my sarcasm and sassiness. So, all right, you guys. Love you guys. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.